I studied journalism at Derby University, didn't really enjoy it, left to go work at a news agency, didn't really enjoy that, so left, thought, what is it that I really enjoy doing? And this was way back when, before TikTok and YouTube was a thing, but me and my mates used to like making short films, so I retrained as a videographer and did that for a number of years freelance, and then through various different channels got really interested in theatre, so kind of went away and retrained as a theatre director as well. Other parts of my practice are I'm also a DJ, a mentor, a producer, lots of other things. You have to wear lots of different hats when you are freelance, and what I would say is if you are good at something, you can always charge someone to do that thing. DJing started out as a hobby of mine in lockdown because I missed going out and raving, and after teaching myself to DJ and invested in a bit of equipment, I was then able to get other people to pay me to do that. So if you're good at something, always know that that is a viable revenue stream that you can charge people for. I will talk a little bit about when I got into theatre. So when I knew that theatre was something that I wanted to do, I went and did the Rep Foundry, which is a year-long residency at the Birmingham Rep. And I knew that was something I wanted to do when I decided that theatre was something that I wanted to do, because it's a really prestigious and great opportunity to develop yourself and your work. After doing that, I went and found Tamasha Directors Programme, which is a theatre company in London specifically aimed at global majority artists. And I did a year-long residency with them. And then most recently, I did an RTYDS 18-month residency at Derby Theatre, where I met some of you and we worked together on various different projects. The reason I'm telling you all that is because it's, right, I'm going to reiterate this throughout the presentation, but you have only just started your learning journey. Even though you're in third year of university, you're going to go on to learn and develop as artists, and finding opportunities where you can be part of organizations that will support your development are really invaluable processes. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Finances, this is the sexy part of the talk. I registered as a sole trader when I was 21 years old. And does anyone know what sole trader means, or think they know what sole trader means? No, good. It basically just means self-employed. So sole trader means you're self-employed. It means you're responsible for your own income, responsible for paying your tax, and responsible for finding your work. There are different ways of being self-employed. You can set up a limited company where you then kind of work for yourself. You can set up a theatre company. I'm not going to talk too much about those today because I am not a limited company. I do not run a theatre company. I work for myself. But basically, you can still do those things as a sole trader. So you can still go get a job at River Island or at Derby Theatre or wherever when you are a sole trader. You can not be earning any money as a sole trader, and you still don't have to pay anything. So I would recommend doing this straight away, because what it means is you can start declaring your tax and you can start earning money freelance. So I think when I set up 10 years ago, it cost maybe £60 to go online, find this website, gov.uk, go online, register a sole trader, register on Companies House. You pay £60, and then that is it. That is all you pay until you start earning tax. So if you want to start making an income, if you want to start sending people invoices, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, registering on Companies House as a sole trader is one of the first things that you do. When you get hired as a sole trader, you then sign a LOA, or a letter of agreement, or a contract. And that's somebody hiring you to provide a service. So whether you're an actor, whether you're a director, whether you're a movement director, or anything in between, they're going to send you a letter of agreement or a contract. You are going to sign it, and then that commits you to providing a service and them to pay you for that service. At the end of that service, or at regular intervals in between, you will send them an invoice for your services, which they then pay. Does that all make sense? Yeah? Cool. So I'm going to talk a little bit about invoices. Who's sent an invoice before? So this is sucking eggs for you guys a little bit. But for those that haven't, this is what an invoice looks like. It is essentially, an invoice is, and I pulled this up from Google, an invoice is a document that sellers send to a buyer to request payments for goods or services that have been provided. It's a formal request for a payment that includes details about the transaction. So it's essentially like a receipt in reverse. So when you buy something, you get a receipt, and that proves that you have bought that product. An invoice is the opposite of that. You do a job, you send an invoice, and that proves that you have done that job. And in the letter of agreement and the contract and the invoice combined is a commitment to that organization that they are going to pay you that money. So you need to be able to do this. This is a template that I used from Pages, which is the Apple version of Windows. You can get them on Google Drive, you can get them online, they are readily available everywhere, but the things that an invoice needs is your address, the date you created and sent the invoice, the purchase order, which is something that they will generate, you won't generate. So not everybody generates a purchase order, but when you're working with big institutions like Derby Theatre, they will have a purchase order. If they haven't sent you a purchase order and you need to send an invoice, you need to chase up their finance department and say, excuse me, I need my purchase order. It'll be unique to every invoice that they make. Their address, also really important. If you do not have their address, their email address will do, but making sure that their details are on the top. Invoice number, that is something that you generate. So every invoice that you generate will have to have a unique invoice number. And the reason for that is so that it can be traced and logged back to that specific transaction, same as a receipt. So if you're working, so for example, I've done work with Derby Theatre, I'm working with them today, I work with them on Tuesday. Those are two different jobs that require two different POs and two different invoice numbers. If I don't have an invoice number on my invoice, they should get back to me and say, can you put one on? But if they don't, and then I don't get paid, and I'm trying to chase it up, that's going to become a very difficult process because I don't have that reference to make sure that this invoice is real and exists. A description of the services. So this was from In Good Company. It was an artist bursary of £1,000 towards a project that I am working on. In the letter of agreement, they didn't have a specific thing that they wanted me to put in the description. So in the description, I just put artist bursary receipt. Some people will say, please make sure you label it very specifically and we'll give you what to write in the description. If they don't, you just describe what it is that you're doing. The fee, obviously. And I cannot stress it enough, the correct bank details. Because if you do not put in the correct bank details, not only will you not get paid, you run the risk of accidentally paying someone else with your money, and that's going to be really hard to get back. Because if £1,000 lands in my account for no good reason, I'm not going to tell anyone about it. So something else I've put here, within 30 days, sincerely yours, Omar Khan. Some people put, if you do not pay this within 30 days, then there will be an additional charge of 5-10% incurred, etc. You can put that if you want, because sometimes it puts the fear of God in people. I personally don't, because unless it's explicitly put in the letter of agreement or contract that that is something that they're agreeing to, they're under no legal obligation to pay that money. And if it does go over and you do want to try and enforce that, you're going to have to go through lengthy and costly legal proceedings to get that money back, and ultimately it isn't really worth it. So some people put that at the bottom just to scare people, making sure they pay on time. But the reality is, if you're working with the council and they pay you late, you ain't going to get 15% on top payment back. Yeah, does that make sense for everybody? Yeah, any questions on that? Cool. So, business bank accounts, the next sexiest slide. There is a link at the bottom there for Money Supermarket where you can go and look at all business accounts and their rates and what they do. I would highly recommend doing that. I would highly recommend setting up a bank account as soon as humanly possible if you haven't already. And that is because technically, you are not allowed to take a non-waged income into a personal account. And that's because they have different interest rates and terms, etc., for personal accounts and business accounts. It won't actually really matter. Your bank aren't going to check. But if one day you start making hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of payments into your personal account, they will close that personal account down because you are violating their terms and technically you are committing fraud. So it is in your best interest to set up a separate account from your personal account as a business account. By having a separate business account, it means that you can keep track of your income and expenditure. So at the end of the year, when you're doing a tax return, you don't have to go through your personal account and try and work out what was a business expense and what was a business income and then add that all together. You can just go through your statement as a business account, tweak it a little bit, and that will tell you exactly how much you earned that year and exactly how much you spent. And it's so much easier to do it that way. So I talked a little bit about expenses. Income-wise, everything that you earn will be taxed. There are exceptions to this. For example, the £1,000 bursary that I got doesn't go to me, that goes to my show. So therefore it's not my income, so I don't add that to my tax return. But if I am charging for a service and you are paying me for that service and I have sent an invoice for that service, then that money is going to be taxed. If someone pays you cash in hand and you choose not to declare that, that is for you to decide, and you may not have to get that taxed. But if it's going into your business account and there is a log and transaction record and it can be tracked, you need to pay that money. You're going to have to pay that money on tax, and it accounts as your income. I use Monzo as my business account because what it means is it has lots of different pots, which means I can put all the money that is funds for a show into one pot, and then it doesn't show up on my income, so I don't accidentally spend it or get confused as to how much money I have and then spend more money than I actually think I have, and in a month go, oh crap, that's actually for a show and now I'm broke. So that's really useful to do. It also means that Monzo is great because you can do it all on your phone and you don't have to be at your computer, and you can ping things away, and that's great. Expenses, not exclusively, but on this list here, are really useful to keep track of, because if you spend money on something that is for your business, because you are now a business, whether you like it or not, that's the nature of being freelance, you're a business. When you spend money on something for your business, you can take that expense and deduct it from your total income when you do your tax return, which then reduces the amount you pay. So it's really useful to start doing this now and keeping a log, because if you earn 15 grand this year and 3 grand of your expenses can be counted as one of these and therefore can be deducted, you might not pay tax this year. Whereas if you paid 15 grand straight and didn't take into account your expenses, then you wouldn't end up paying tax this year. So we've probably heard the term deductibles before. The more that you can deduct, the better the less tax you will end up paying. And you can be creative with this to a certain extent. But for example, I am recently starting to sell the Pokemon cards that I've been collecting since I was 10 years old. That means, as far as I'm concerned, all the folders and sleeves that go into that I'm paying for my Pokemon cards are now a business expense. Because if I'm going to sell those Pokemon cards and then claim them back on tax, why not? I once charged a trip to Amsterdam on my business by taking a few photos and posting those photos on my website because I do photography. That trip then became a business trip and I got to claim that back on tax. So it's in your best interest to start using a business account, thinking about what can count as expenses, what fits within your creative practice, and how can you claim that back on tax. Does that all make sense? Yeah. Cool. So, how much should I charge? A lot of the time, you don't get to decide what you charge and what you earn. People will advertise a fee or offer you a fee, but you can try and negotiate that. Sometimes you just got to say yes. Sometimes people will say, how much do you charge? So first exercise that we're going to do today is, and if you're not an actor muso, let's be creative and use our imagination. But you're an actor muso that lives in Derby. You've been asked to perform a short 15-minute sets of music or comedy or a monologue or whatever it may be at Burton Brewhouse. The event lasts 3 hours and takes place 4 times a year. If they like you, it'll become a regular gig. The organisers ask what your fee is. What do you say? So I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes in pairs or small groups. Have a think about this question and tell me what the answer would be. I'll give you guys 5 minutes. Definitely. So I think we're all doing the right working out, but our maths are all coming out very different, which is fine. So what I have is, travel there. For me, that would be 11 miles there and back. The average payment is 45p per mile if you're driving, so that's £9.90 plus any parking that you need to do when you get there. I charge for pretty much anything that I do, I charge £50 an hour. So £50 an hour, and that includes the get in and get out. So that's 150 quid. So an hour to get in, an hour of my time. I know it's only 15 minutes, but I'm not going to charge 15 minutes, I'm going to charge for an hour. And then an hour to get out is 150 quid. Equipment and insurance, like you mentioned, if we're musicians, then we'll have spent lots and lots of money on equipment and lessons and all that stuff over the years, which I value at around £1,500. So I usually add, I'm not adding that to my final, don't worry, but I normally add an extra 50 quid if I'm bringing a lot of equipment with me. So if I'm filming or if I'm DJing or something like that, I add an extra 50 on for the equipment. Prep, rehearsal time. You guys need to practice. You don't just turn up to the job without having practiced. I know for a fact when I DJ, for every hour I perform, 3 hours of rehearsal end up going into that 1 hour. So I add 60 quid to that. So 3 hours of rehearsal at £20 an hour rehearsal time. And that all comes to £285. Now the question is, do you ask them for £285 or not? Who thinks they would ask them for to go on?
Oh, yeah,
Go on.
I was going to say
Yeah.
they always ask for more.
Okay.
Because in my mind it makes sense to ask for more, because then if you ask for more, they would
Negotiate.
the price of what you actually like.
Yeah.
If they give you more, they give you more. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. That's a good rule to live by. Go on.
I don't know, I wouldn't want to be cheeky. I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to scare them off, be like, yeah, give me 250, and they're like, we're going to pay you literally 50 quid.
Yeah. So I think that, go on.
With what Ben's saying as well is if you ask for more, a little bit more, if you've forgotten to factor something in and they think of something that you haven't factored in, that could help them with oh, actually you do need a little bit more because you haven't factored something in.
Yeah.
And it's easily done, so it might be easier to ask obviously not a ridiculous number, but sort of just in case you've got that leeway of actually I have forgotten.
Yeah. So this is what good old friend Donald Trump calls the art of the deal, isn't it?
Oh.
And I think I don't know why I chose that as an analogy. That's awful. I'm so sorry, guys.
2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks exactly. It's in my brain. I just can't get out. No, but I think you all made some really good points, and I think ultimately the answer is you will know what the situation is and can do it on a case-by-case basis. If this is a bunch of students that come up to you and say, hi, we're just starting out a night, we're looking for acts to perform, how much can you charge? You might go down to the lower end and say, look, if this is going to become a regular thing and this is a nice little money spinner for me, I can go down to 250. If this is a festival that has been established for 10 years and has been going a long time and they ask you how much you want to pay, you can round it up to 300 and see what they say. And ultimately you have to make the decision. If they turn around and say we can't afford 300 quid, we'll give you 50 quid. Do you want to do that job? Is it worth your time? Do you think you'll enjoy it? Is as much as I say, is the exposure useful? Is there a chance that they might be able to start paying you more in the long run if the thing goes? These are all questions that you have to ask, but at the base of this, you need to make sure that you know how much your time is worth ultimately, which is why we did that exercise. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions on that before we move on? So the next super fun maths-based exercise we're going to do. How much money do you need to survive? And this is a really important question because that will also factor in whether or not you take the job, whether or not you quit that part-time job because you're now earning enough money to survive or not. So I'm not going to make us do the whole thing, but I think it's really important to spend 5 minutes trying to work this out on a really base level. So thinking about all your monthly outgoings, so your bills, your travel, how much do you spend on food? Do you eat out often? How much do you do it? Do you have any subscriptions? What are your hobbies? All that kind of stuff. So I have the answer to this in a budget in my Google Drive. When things change, I will go and add to it, and I will know how much I then need to survive. What I then do is my business account has all the money that I earn in it, and at the beginning of every month, I pay myself that number plus a little bit for treats and fun things. But what that means is, as my money comes in my business account, it's not immediately going out again, and I can't keep track of all my ingoings. So I pay myself as if I have a wage or a salary. Everything that then sits in my business account is for me to use on expenses. If it's a rainy day and I'm not earning any money that month or I'm earning less money that month, I can still pay myself the same because it's all stored up in my business account, and I'm not over or massively under spending. So this is an essential skill for you guys to know when you're working freelance, because otherwise you're going to spend the money as soon as it comes in, and then 1 month you're not going to get paid and you go, oh shit, I'm broke. What do I do now? So I'm just going to give you 5 minutes, probably a little bit less, just to start writing down all these expenses and thinking about what your essentials are and how much you need to earn to survive. Definitely. So I three things that you guys don't have to worry about this yet, but when you're not students anymore, council tax you're going to have to think about. If anyone here has a car, running that is hella expensive. Pet insurance. All the kind of stuff I have to spend money on. When you get to my age, life insurance is something that you pay into. If anyone has an ISA or is trying to save money, it's always good to have that added as a monthly expense that you then have to think about and pop it in. But yeah, you all get the idea. But the reason to do that exercise is, like I said, because if you are your business, any business will have their projected income and expenditure going on for like the next 10 years. For you guys, knowing how much money you are spending now and therefore how much money you need to be making, and even potentially if you want to, what you think that will look like in 2 or 3 years' time as well is really important, because then when we go back to this, which is how much do you charge, you know exactly how many days a week you need to work based on the amount of income that you're asking that will provide you that level of income. Cool. Does that all make sense? Does anyone have any questions before we move on? No? Cool. So we've done the fun, sexy finance side of things. I'm not going to talk any more about numbers, you'll be pleased to know. I hate numbers as well. That was painful for me as it was for you guys. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about, and I touched on a little bit before, is like the idea that we're continuing to learn and network and gain professional experience, and that we've only just started to really learn. This is something that took me a while to develop. If I'm honest, I went to a grammar school. I was in gifted and talented. So as a young kid, I thought I already knew everything. And that was really, really detrimental to my development. It wasn't until that I then made the transition into theatre and thought, right, I didn't study drama at A-level or at university or anything. I know that when I walk into a room, I'm the person that knows at least. You guys already levels ahead of where I was when I started by doing this degree. And that gave me a hunger and a drive to push and learn and develop. And that was so useful and undid countless hours of being told that you're smart, and therefore me translating that going, oh, well, I don't have to try then, which is really stupid. That's not a smart thing, it's a stupid thing. But anyway, the 3 main ways that I did this and continued my professional development outside of university was, the first one was workshops. So going to attend every single workshop I possibly could. There are loads of free stuff. You can pay to go to workshops as well, but if you're struggling financially, there are still loads of free things that you can go to. You can find them on Twitter. Follow people that make the work that you are interested in, and they will always post about stuff. Subscribe to mailing lists, so In Good Company, Amplify in Nottingham, any of the theatres that you are interested in going to, any of the theatre companies that make work that you're interested in, subscribe to their mailing lists. Spy Monkeys is another brilliant one that do lots of comedy-based things. Non-Such Studios are people that always have workshops available. Hunt them out and you will find them. Doing workshops in art forms that you don't enjoy or don't want to be a part of are still really useful because they push yourself. Everything expands your practice and steers you in the right direction. So I've done like weird Japanese theatre workshops before where we're all connected by string and stomping around the room. And I was like, I'm probably never going to use any of this in my practice, but it's still really useful because it opens my mind and helps me understand where other people may be coming from. It is always a tool in my arsenal. If I'm really struggling in a rehearsal room and people aren't responding, I can pull out this weird Japanese thing. And even if it doesn't work, it shifts the tone of the room and is a useful tool in my arsenal. So do every workshop that you possibly can under the sun, especially when you are young, because you will absorb it and it will benefit your practice immensely. Shadowing, meeting, networking. So I was telling this story to Miranda earlier. When I started, I'm originally from Birmingham and I moved to Derby for work because I think the theatre here is brilliant. And when I was working in Birmingham, I was working part-time in a coffee shop and it was close to the train station. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll just keep that job while I move to Derby until I don't need it anymore. And then a week before I moved to Derby, I got fired from that coffee job because I wasn't a very good employee because I didn't enjoy working there. And I thought to myself, oh crap, I can either now try and find another coffee job that I'm not going to really enjoy in Derby, or I can start taking this shit seriously and go all in the freelance thing. And that's what I did. And so I emailed every single person who worked at Derby Theatre and said, hi, my name's Omar. I'm moving to the region. It would be really great if we could have a coffee and a chat and learn more about what you do and see if there's any work available. I did that. And off the back of that, I got a bunch of work with the participation team and ultimately shadowing Sarah Brigham on a project. So I think email people that you are interested in, email people whose work you respect and admire, email artistic directors, email people who work in the building, email the cleaners, man. Just message people, find their websites, chat to them. They want to speak to you. I regularly get people sliding into my inbox through my website saying like, hey, can we just have a chat and meet for a coffee? And I always say yes. Because when I was starting out, that was something people did for me, and I always want to pay that forward. A sneaky trick when you're emailing artistic directors, if you don't have their email address, go on the website, find what the pattern of the email is. So for example, at derbytheatre.org.uk, and just slam their name in lots of different configurations until the right one works. They're not going to get 5 different emails. They're only going to get the one that goes through. I did that with the Almeida recently, and as a result of that, I had a meeting with the Almeida, and they have my CV on file, and they're looking at working with me in the future. So like, just spam people, do it. And that what I would also say is like, this is how you should be filling your day. If you are a freelance artist, if you are now working for yourself and you're self-employed and you don't have a job, you don't have a gig, this is what you fill your time doing. You don't have to spend 8 hours a day doing it, but waking up in the morning and committing to I'm going to send 10 emails today, I'm going to try and have a conversation, I'm going to set up this many meetings today, or whatever it is. Set yourself a goal, set yourself an amount of time to do it, and then go away and do it, and that is you doing your job. I think that's enough about that. The last one then is developing your creative practice and funded opportunities. So there are other ways. Obviously, the first two can be difficult because when we're trying to earn a living, we're not actively earning money by doing that. DYCP, develop your creative practice from the Arts Council and other funded opportunities, allow you then to pay yourself the time to develop and learn and upskill. So there are other funds. I recently applied to SAMPAD, which is specifically targeted at global majority artists, but if you look for similar things, they are out there. There used to be loads of European funds like Big House that unfortunately don't exist anymore because #Brexit. But if you are interested specifically in a new skill or new area of your practice and want to upskill, for example, I really want to make I want to make digital theatre. There are loads of funds out there specifically targeted at artists who are interested in developing into their practice digitally, and you can go away and apply for funds a lot of the time you don't have to prove what you're doing. It's time for you to think and develop and grow. So thinking about where you want your practice to be in 3-5 years time, and then specifically applying for funds to go on that journey is a really useful way of getting funds for your career. Develop your creative practice is really useful. It's normally a shift in your career. So for example, I'm applying for Develop Your Creative Practice in November when it opens, because I want to be an artistic director of a building, and so that's slightly different from being a director in a room, and so I'm going to apply for funds to go away and spend a year doing that. Yeah, does that make sense? Cool. So viewing your practice as a business. As I mentioned before, like even when you don't have work, you need to be filling your days with things that contribute to your professional and creative development. And I've broken that down to 3 ways: hustling, marketing, and organising. So hustling is what I talked about before. It's like making sure that you're spending your time applying for work. Like Open Hire is a really good place to be subscribed to, and you should be getting their emails in your inbox with lots of different opportunities. Arranging meetings, applying for funding, whatever it is that you're doing, commit to spend at least an hour of your day trying to find work or develop relationships with people. The other one is marketing. So what we talked about before is like making sure you have a bio. So for me, a good bio tells people what kind of work you make or are interested in making. It tells people about your past credits and notable accolades, and it sells the story of you. So really think about it as if it was a creative writing practice that you were doing, and how do you tell people about your journey and your development and where you want to go, so when they read it, they go, yeah, I can see how this opportunity would fit in this person's narrative. Business cards, websites, Spotlight, these are all investments that you use to market yourself. So if you're an actor, you need a Spotlight page, which sucks because it's expensive and it costs money. But like most big theatres only cast on Spotlight. I have in the past only cast on Spotlight, and then smaller websites will approach me and say, could you please put our casting on our website? We'll do it for free, because it then means people get access to it. And I've said yes, but I have never cast anybody from that website. And that isn't because I have a stigma against that website. It's because there are so many people on Spotlight that then having this second layer of admin involved becomes quite difficult. So if we're actors, we need to be on Spotlight. If we're directors or creatives, we need our own website with lots of lovely pictures of the amazing work that you do. We need a CV, we need business cards, and we need to be meeting people and telling them all about these things. Yeah, so organising is the last thing that I want to talk about. When you're self-employed, your time is your own, and no one else is going to tell you how to organise that time, so you've got to plan smart. You need a digital calendar of some sort. If you have a paper one, I have both. I have a paper one and a digital one, and I'll talk about how I use them separately in a bit. You need organisational skills because you're going to be spinning plates. I'm currently working on like 5 to 7 different projects at the moment. And that doesn't mean that every single day I wake up and work on these 7 different projects, but it means every single day I need to wake up and know which projects I'm going to be working on that day, because if I don't work on them at least semi-regularly, those plates are going to stop spinning and they're going to fall down and they're going to break. So this is kind of what my breakdown of my day-to-day to-do lists and stuff looks like. So you've got this was from my August. So everything is color-coded, so I know when it's going to happen. And I'm super anal, so I literally have like when the football was on and when my Asda shop is going to come. So don't think that this is all work and oh my God. But like everything that happens in my life is on my Google Calendar so that I don't accidentally plan a meeting when I'm supposed to be getting a haircut and then have to miss out on one or the other. Because you can see haircuts are so important to me. But yeah, then on the right-hand side, what I do is, this is my paper diary that I use. Sorry, I keep pointing over here. My paper diary that I use. So, for example, this week, I know that today I'm doing this. Tomorrow is the deadline for a job that I want to apply for. So what I do in my weekly calendar is I make sure that every day running up to the In Good Company thing that I'm doing, which is this, I will have some time dedicated to prepping for it. Every single day, I will make sure that I will be doing a little bit of the application for this thing that goes in on Friday. What that means is, and this, you don't have to do it this way, I'm just explaining how I do it. What that means is that Thursday doesn't roll around and go, oh shit, I need to apply for that job at the rep and then have to write this massive application. I've already started that process. Even if it's opening the tab to look at what the application looks like, at least that's not something I'm leaving last minute then. And then on the Tuesday, I can write a little bit of the application. Thursday, I can finish it. Friday, I can send it all out. Similarly, making sure that this was from a show that I'm working with a writer at the moment, and they have written play that was inspired by one of Carol Churchill's plays. Her name is spelt wrong there, that's autocorrect, sorry. And this was something that I was supposed to have done like 3 weeks ago, but 3 weeks ago on Thursday, I then had a bunch of meetings blocked in, and I knew that I wasn't going to get this done on this day, so I crossed it out on this day and put it down on another day. That day came a couple of days before the day, and I realized, actually, I'm not going to get time to read that play because I need to do this, so it gets pushed. So by having a daily to-do list and task, it doesn't mean that I'm definitely going to do them, but it means I know where I can manage and rearrange all my little different bits and pieces, and it means that nothing gets forgotten. And then this is what my to-do list looks like. I am, again, super anal, so I break my day down to 30-minute increments, and I include, eat breakfast on that day. You don't have to do it like this, but you do have to do something like this, because if you don't, you will not be able to do all the things that you want to do and juggle the jobs that will allow you to live that freelance life. Does that make sense? So just thinking about how you are going to organize your day, because your day is no longer your day is now a day where you run a business. Does that make sense? And the benefit of doing this is it means if you pack all your stuff on the top of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you can have Thursday and Friday off if you want to, because you are in charge of your time. So if you outline all of your jobs that need doing on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then don't have anything on Thursday and Friday, take Thursday and Friday off. If you know that you don't have any work that needs to be done because you planned it accordingly, enjoy your time. We should be all having a 4-day working week. Science shows that that's the good thing, so live your best life. I think that's everything from me. Let's take a break, because I've spoken for a very long period of time. So thank you very much, guys. Let's take 10 minutes. 10 minutes, we'll come back at 12, and then we'll do a Q&A. Cheers, guys.